Hello and welcome to Becoming the Brand. My name is Mo Hedayat and I'm your host for today. In today's show, we're going to be talking to Ranvir Nagra, a financial advisor and marketing director. Thank you so much for joining us on today's show.
Thank you for having me, Mo. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I've been looking forward to kind of connecting with you and sitting down and really sharing your story with our audience, because I think it's important nowadays to manage our wealth, with how things are going. Financially, everybody's in a different state of life. And I'm sure what you bring into people is the world of difference. You help them grow to the next level of where they need to go. Because sometimes, no matter how much money we make, at some point we need support, and we need help, and we need people to help us go to that direction. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you started in this industry? What makes it so passionate for you to be so involved in this?
Yeah, exactly. And before I actually tell you that, I want to tell you a little bit about what you just said, right? Hey, people need help in wealth management. You see, we don't really learn about finance, financial literacy in school, right? We learn about math, not a lot of things that we do end up using in real life, but we still learn about history, science, and so many other things. But financial literacy is something that is not taught in school, right? But that is the area exactly I specialize in: financial literacy, wealth management, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about that as well. And when it comes to my story, I was actually born in India, grew up in Dubai, Middle East.
Wow.
And growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur. Growing up, seeing him being an entrepreneur, their lifestyle, how they do things and everything, I was like, okay, that's it. I've decided I want to be an entrepreneur as well.
Nice. That's awesome.
So I started shadowing him, started going to the office with him, see how he does things. One advice that his peers gave me that kind of stuck with me is, hey, Ranvir, you know what? If you want to be wealthy and a successful entrepreneur, you need to learn about how money works and how to have that money make more money for you.
Yeah. Very
right?
true. Very true.
And then we ended up moving to Canada. I tried 15, 20 different jobs. My motive was that I just want to learn how to build a successful business and how to learn about how money works. Unfortunately, I couldn't learn that at the jobs that I was doing. Right. So when I came across this opportunity, I was like, let's do it. Why not?
Nice.
Right.
How many years have you been involved in this?
It's been 2 years now.
When it comes down to wealth management, and you said education, or helping people understand it better, that's the challenging part. A lot of people don't. I mean, going out through high school and college and everything, we learn about specific things, but nothing to be more detailed about wealth as much as we should be learning. At least that's my perspective. So, what do you think is missing? I mean, from all your conversations when you have with people, what do you think is missing, or what do you see is missing in their knowledge base? Do you feel like you fill that void for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, when we sit down with people, one thing that majority of the people end up saying after seeing the information that we present is, man, I wish I knew it before. Man, I wish I could have started earlier. I wish I would have started like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was 18, 19, right out of high school. I wouldn't be in debt. I wish I knew about student loans. I wish I knew how to pay off my mortgage faster, so on and so forth. Yeah. Right? So one thing that we always come across is that people just say, hey, you know what? The earlier I would have started, the better it is. Yeah. But again, in the school system, there's no financial literacy. And again, nothing wrong with the school system. But again, there should be something related to financial literacy where people can learn more about finances, how to have their money make more money for them, rather than, like, for example, in the savings account, you earn 0.5%. On your credit cards, you pay 18, 20%.
Right. That's so true. I've seen people have money in their savings and debt on their credit card. I'm like, your credit card is only about $2,000. You have about $5,000 in your account.
Exactly.
Are you balancing? I mean, does it make sense? I mean, the most basic math will tell you that's not the right answer for your wealth.
Exactly. But the thing is, like I've heard many stories as well that people think, hey, you know what, they get a credit card, it's their money, they can use it. Not that many people actually go into details of interest rates. You seem like an experienced person yourself, right? So I'm sure you know a little bit more about finances than someone who's just in high school or like getting out of high school or in university or getting out of university. They're going to realize all these things 2, 5 years, 10 years down the line. And once they do that, their interest on that credit card has been compounding at 18, 24%. And at one point just gets way too big for them to pay it off just like that, right?
Oh, believe me, I've been through that. I think a lot of people, in their teenage years, they come across somewhere, hey, sign up for this credit card. You sign up, it's like, great, I have $500 in this thing. I can buy a lot of stuff.
There you go.
And that $500 increases and increases and increases, and your debt increases without you considering this until you get to a point where someone has to support you, and at that age usually it's parents, or someone around you, or you're working hard but you're not really utilizing your money in the right direction because you thought you had money that you've spent which was not really yours, and now you have to pay all this interest on top of it. So tell me something. How would somebody kind of get themselves out of that situation? I mean, if someone's right now listening and watching us, and they're in a situation where well, I've accumulated all this, challenging situation for myself. Or if somebody's younger that's listening to us and say, what can I do? I work, a part-time job. I don't have that much money, so I can't say that I want to figure out my stuff. How do they do it? I mean, saving $10 a month is not really going to be anything for them. What would be the strategies that you think they should consider, for example?
Right. So I think that question is kind of related to a topic of entrepreneurship as well, or just making extra money, right? If we could save $1,000, we could save $100, right? But if you earn 10% on that, it's a good amount. It's better than keeping your money in the savings account. But again, it's not enough for someone that you're describing. Let's say they're in a situation where they have accumulated a lot of debts and so on, right? So one thing that they obviously need to do is they need a financial plan, right? They need a customized financial plan based on their needs so they can get to their goals in the most fastest and efficient way possible. Right? And it has to be more than just plus and minus. I make this much, I pay off this much, I'll be debt free. What if in between something happens? What if in between something unexpected happens and then that person has to take on more debts to support or to get out of that situation? Right? I'm talking about unexpected events.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So definitely first step would be getting a financial plan customized to their needs, right? And then making sure they're fully protected in case of unexpected events as well. That way, over time, they can follow that financial plan. Because most of the time what happens is if people do start applying some of the strategies and they're not fully covered in case of unexpected events, then they start working south, right? And everything goes south, and then they have to get out of that situation as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it naturally happens like that. I mean, you start feeling this heavy weight on your shoulders, and you feel like you can't get out of this. How do I do this? I have all these elements and all these things and all these comforts of life that I've, built around me, but now I've also built all this, death around me. So it's a problem from that perspective. So, and I can see that, it's better to keep mindful of how you're spending your money is important. And I think we've learned over the past 2 years, we have to be considerate of our money and where we put it, because there's only limited amount of it at times based on some situations, where lockdowns were happening or things were happening. So those are the situations that could happen that you should have thought of, for example. I'm sure that, anyone that had gone through the process that you're expressing, that you're talking about, that they've actually figured out their whole financial plan, they would have accounted for issues like this to a certain point. I'm sure this was a huge catastrophe that nobody really thought of, but you still are in a much better position, right? And, instead of investing in one company and putting all your money in one company, what if you had spread it across multiple different avenues? So if one is doing better, that's covering anything else that's not doing better. And I'm sure that's probably some of the feedback that people would want from you.
Yeah, 100%. See, the thing is, there's a lot of advice out there on YouTube. There's a lot of advice out there on blogs and this and that. Hey, you know what? You should do this with your finance. You should do that with your finance. You should do this with your money. This company is good. That company is bad. So on and so forth, right? But when it comes to actually applying all that information to your own portfolio, it's a completely different story, right? Because the person writing a blog doesn't really know what situation you're in, what your goals are in the next 2 to 5 years, 5+ years, and so on. How many people are depending on you? How many people are not depending on you? What's the risk that you're also taking by show all of your money in this company or that company and so on? So there's definitely has to be more of a personal touch as well. And at the same time, getting a financial plan is good, but what people should also do is they should keep increasing their financial knowledge. Right? For example, reading books, listening to podcasts, this one, for example. That way they're always educating themselves rather than just sitting down with one advisor once a year or once every 5 years, so on and so forth, and just making sure, everything's going to be okay after 20 years and so on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that makes sense. And the fact that we have technology at our disposal and education and knowledge, in our ears, while we drive, while we walk or drive or jog or do whatever. Now when I drive, I listen to podcasts and I listen to ebooks or audiobooks, simply because I'm consuming that time. I'm consuming knowledge, even if I'm stuck in traffic. So that traffic doesn't feel like traffic, because I'm consuming something that connects with me, resonates with my lifestyle and that environment. It doesn't mean you have to listen to every podcast, but eventually we will find something, or we'll find the right book to listen to, or right book to read, or right magazine or product to kind of consume, for us to become much more educated, because it's so much easier nowadays.
Exactly. It's like the classroom now. For like you're driving somewhere like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, instead of like sitting down in a classroom taking notes. The car can be your classroom. And one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I used to drive a lot for one of my other jobs a long time ago, few years back, many years back actually. And then I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Right? I don't know if you know about that book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like everyone listening to this podcast should have read that book, or like should actually go read that book, or like get a copy of it, maybe listen to it on Audible.
Right.
It's been life-changing for many people. It's been translated in over 100 languages. So if you're thinking, hey, you know what should I do with my finances, so on and so forth, that's one book to start with, right there, Rich Dad and Poor Dad.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like comparing your entrepreneur dad to your worker dad. It's like, this is the system, this is what we have to follow, this is the right path of life. But it doesn't have to be.
Exactly.
You're supposed to change the status quo. You're supposed to make a difference. And I think the purpose why we're all here is to make a ripple in this world before we leave. We're here for a limited time. We can only do so much. But in the process of living, enjoying, having fun, having good times and bad times, what I feel we should do is be able to leave something behind. It doesn't necessarily have to be money from that perspective. It could be success in different ways, where you can leave something behind that for the next generation to consume and learn from and do better. Because we always want, our kids to do better. We always want the future generation to be better than us. I hope they're doing better. I hope they have clean water in the future, sort of thing, right? So we're always thinking about the future, but we also have to think about the present of where we are now and what are we doing to contribute to the environment that we're in, and how we can have a positive impact where it can carry on even past us. And that, to me, I think is important, because all these things that you're mentioning, if we're financially sound and we're able to, have a good life, we'll have more time to do this stuff. If you're struggling and you're trying to survive yourself, how are you supposed to help somebody else?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I think, it's important for somebody. And like when you talked about, you need a personal touch. It's important to have a personal touch. You can't just go out there and just do everything yourself. We can't consume everything. We can't learn everything. But what we can do is find the right people to help us in that path that we're going, ones that are professional, right? And I think, I'm sure in your experience, you've come across people that were hesitant to take that step. Changing our habits is not easy. Right?
No, exactly. It's definitely not easy. And then when you come across someone who's like, hey, you know what, I could help you with this, so on and so forth, you already have like human psychology says, like, the first thing that you're gonna think of is what's wrong with this, right? Because our brain being like hundreds of years old machine, right? It's like more of in a survival instinct, right? Like we see something, we're supposed to be in the like jungles and everything, see something, run and so on, right? So that's simply how we are wired and like how the programming is. So when it's normal for people to see something that they're not used to, something new, and first thing they want to do is figure out what's wrong with that, right? Why it's not good for them. But again, once you actually sit down with people, see what their goals are and so on, and then it comes to communication as well, right? Communication skills. And then at the end of the day, I feel like in the 21st century, people are smart enough and know about their family enough that if they're explained their options in the right language, in simple language, I would say, and they're given their options, they can simply make decisions for themselves. Absolutely. It's not even like the traditional industry, hey, buy one, get one free, invest in this, I'll give you 0% off, this and that, right? It's just mainly if they get educated in the right way, then they can simply make decisions for themselves as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, especially nowadays, I think we've had the opportunity to become an entrepreneur, right? Where we can have a business, with online businesses booming and exploding, and people can have, sell cookies, and it becomes thing. People sell cakes or something, or socks, or, do drop shipping, and all these different avenues that your money can carry on further. I mean, do you ever see that where you're kind of saying, well, I think you're in a position to take a different step and go a little further?
So when you say like take a different step, do you mean like diversify your assets or
Exactly.
start making more money?
Well, diversify more your assets, right?
No, 100%. It's definitely always good to diversify your assets, and that way, and your investments, right? Like whatever you're investing in, rather than just investing in one company or two big companies. Because if you ask people, hey, do you think a company like Apple could go bankrupt? Most people will say, no, it's a big company. It's not going bankrupt anytime soon, right? But you see companies like Nokia, Nortel, Kodak, huge companies, but they went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So no matter how good the company is at the moment, due to bad management, and if people don't need their products anymore, don't like their products anymore for some reason, right? Maybe what the company stands for or believes in, or if there's a competition, like if there's a good competitor in the market that's offering a better product at a low price, then that company could go bankrupt as well. Right? Even a company like Apple. I'm not saying it will, but I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Anything is possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially when you start something, when you're a company that's as big as Apple, and then you feel like you have the market in your control. It's only a matter of time when a younger company comes out of nowhere and is now taking over the market. Yeah. Apple did that to Microsoft and other companies. So it was natural for others to come into the industry. It doesn't mean that that you're not going to continue conquering your industry. Yeah. It just means that you have to expect some competition to grow from what you're creating, because you're creating an opportunity for people to say, I want to aspire to be that company, and I have this idea, and brilliant minds are being born every day.
Yeah, and I feel like there's two types of companies. One, companies are like they're in the competition, and other companies are dominating, right?
Yeah.
Companies like Apple, Coca-Cola, they're not even competing. They're just dominating. Yeah. Right? Trillions of dollars. Right? And then other companies are just trying to catch up, and so on.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and I think that's the main thing. I mean, when we look at companies as large as those, and companies, that are starting up, new startup companies, and a startup company can go from 0 to 100 really fast. In your journey, I mean, at which level of clientele or people do you talk to? I mean, where are they in their lifetime? Have they just began their career or their business, or is it like do you feel like it's easier to kind of do that when it's a bigger company and needs help from that? I mean, I'm sure you work with various, but what do you feel is what the average person is nowadays that's out there?
Right. So me personally working, I have clients some clients are 3 years old, some are 17 years old. My cousin is 17 years old. He's in high school. He's still investing with me. Wow. Some people are approaching retirement. Some people are already retired. Some corporations are doing like, let's say, $50,000 a year. Right? I have corporate clients as well. Some corporations are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Okay. Right? So I'm not just working with one area of people only, or like one specific area where it's just like I'm targeting that niche and I'm just like helping those people. We say, hey, you know what, like financial education, how we do things, it's for every single person to take advantage of. But when it comes to majority of the people where I see nowadays, people that I sit down with, I would say there's two types. First are, hey, you know what, they're 1 to 2 paychecks away from
collapsing.
Yeah,
seriously, right? It is that.
That's it, right? And they're not that worried about it, which is fine, right? And then there's other types who are like, hey, you know what, they can't wait to take some massive action so they can take their portfolio to the next level, because in their family or maybe in their life, they just want to be in a situation financially comfortable where they change their family tree. Yeah. Right? So there's two types of people. Like now they could be both 17-year-old, 27-year-old, 35-year-old. Some people are comfortable making $5,000, still not saving a penny. Some people are just making $2,000 and saving $500 a month.
Right. So it doesn't matter necessarily what your income level is. You can still manage it.
Exactly.
It's not for the wealthy that have millions of dollars in their accounts. No. It can work for anybody who's willing to adjust their lifestyle, essentially.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest. Yeah. To save $500, you have to not spend it on all the other things that you spend for $500.
Yeah. Or you can just be like, hey, every month $500 comes out of my account, and I'm just going to go out there, find a way to make $500 more. So keep spending what you're doing. I never say, hey, you know what, spend less. I just say, hey, you know what, like if you can figure out a way to make more money, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it keeps you hungry.
Exactly. Keeps you driven, keeps you going, keeps you on your feet. Why not?
Absolutely. And I think, when it happens a lot when we work for a company usually. It's hourly rate or, salary. It's easier because we become a little bit lazy to a certain point. Of course, there's ones that careers, and they've, that's what their position is. They've worked hard for that. If they could be a lawyer or an engineer where, they're making good money. But it doesn't mean that, that you're in a safe spot.
Exactly.
You could get fired, the company could collapse. So you need to make sure that, now you have lots of money coming in. How much of that are you putting into the right areas to back yourself up should anything happen to life?
Yeah, you should definitely always be in a thriver's mindset, right? Like there's two types, right? Like survivors and thrivers. Survivors, they get paid, they pay for living expenses, taxes, and debts. At the end of every month, they're left with $0.
Right.
Thrivers, they might make less or more than the survivor's mindset, doesn't matter. They might be self-employed or employed, it doesn't matter. Because it's simply a mindset, right? They get paid, they pay for living expenses, taxes, and debts, but they make sure on paper their net worth is going up. Their net worth is going up. 5 years, they're at this stage. 10 years, they're at this stage. 20 years, they're at this stage.
Yeah.
Right? And then they have a plan where they know, hey, you know what, at this age, that's when I get to financial freedom. Financial freedom should be the end goal for every single person, right?
Absolutely.
For people listening, if they're thinking, hey, what is financial freedom? It's not like living a Dan Bilzerian lifestyle. It's just that, hey, you know what? You're at a point where your investments are paying for all your bills, every single thing that basically needs to get paid for, and you have a choice to go to work or you can take that day off. Totally up to you.
Yeah. And I think when people say, well, I want to make so much money, I want to retire at 30, 35, 40, whatever the case may be. But in reality, let's be honest, nobody really retires. We want to always do something. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be working for a company. You could, not work for a company, but you end up doing something else with someone else's business, as a hobby. And, we as human beings, we will continue to work, because if you stop working, let's say, for example, you win the lottery. And you have all this money. You go on vacation, and you go on another vacation, and
there's so many. There's only so many vacations.
And then after a while, it's like I've seen everything that I could.
Yeah.
And I still have money, and I need to do something with it. So that's when you need to become creative with what to do with this money. Eventually, you want to be doing something. There's a desire inside us for us to continue to do something, for us to build on what we have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, for some people, yeah. For some people, it's just like if you check the stats, you'll realize that 80% to 90% of the lottery winners, they go bankrupt in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess easy money, easy come, easy go. Isn't that
right.
the kind of saying?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just it's who they were. They just got back to who they actually were. Think about it this way. There's this thermostat in this room, right? And we want it to be 70 degrees, right? Wind blows in, the temperature goes up to 80 degrees, and it'll bring it down to 70 degrees, right? So just like that, that's how people are as well.
Yeah.
Right? If all of a sudden they get $3-4 million, they have that money, they're gonna end up using it, and that thermostat that inside of it, because that's who personally they are.
Yeah.
Right? And then they'll bring it down back to zero. They'll cool that down.
Yeah.
Every area has a thermostat.
Yeah.
Right? And you'll never go above that thermostat setting that you have for yourself.
Yeah.
If you believe you're 80 degrees, you are worth making $6,000, that's what you'll do. But if you actually start changing that, you start to go to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, and so on.
That's right, yeah. It's all about your mindset.
Exactly.
How you wire your mind, how you set it. Of course, there's definitely a lot of books, and how you change your habits once you're ready to make that.
Right.
I think, a great book, Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits, yes.
Which is incredible. Incredible book. I read it, and it was, I listened to it. It's something that it helps you. It's everything It's the flash of the obvious. This. You just haven't been doing it or applying it to yourself.
Yeah. See, the thing is, there's all the books that we need to become millionaires. The only reason why it never ends up happening is because people lack mental toughness.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? If they had good enough and a self-talk, what they say to yourself.
Yeah.
How many people have read that Atomic Habits book? How many people have read other books by Tony Robbins, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so on and so forth?
Yeah.
Majority of the people, they stop at the first chapter, the second chapter, or the third chapter. They don't even end up finishing that book. Yeah. That's because of mental toughness. They lack it, right? Yeah. Second is self-talk. It's just, let's say I read that Atomic Habits book. I tried those things, but if I don't make a permanent change that is made by what you say when you talk to yourself,
right,
and you actually watch how you think, then slowly I'll change those habits and they'll fall back into those habits unless they're very, very self-aware or very self-conscious, like of what they're actually doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, you're in control of your body and your actions. You just have to be able to, stick to that and commit to it. And I think that's where that habit comes in, where you need to commit to what you're going to go and do. A lot of people read these books, they come out of it, they can learn so much, for the first, little while, they're all about it. And then all of a sudden, the energy dries down because they're not continuing with that flow. People expect quick results at times. And when they expect quick results and they don't always get it, they lose interest. And it just, their habits then change and they go back to the way, like you said, they go back to where they were.
Originally,
The temperature comes right back down.
Yeah, and it's just like motivation as well, right? Like you get motivated, everything, you listen to this podcast, good to go, I'm going to take action, right? But motivation is, a lot of authors say that as well, like motivation is BS, it doesn't work, right? Motivation is good, but it will only be like temporary, like it's very, very temporary. And if you're getting motivated by something, then it's just, you're not in control 100% because your motivation is coming from a different source. What if that person is not there, or that motivation source is not there in the times that you actually need it?
Yeah, very true. Absolutely.
Right?
Wow. Well, we can talk about this all day. I mean, there's so much, I feel like, we have so much more to talk about and share. And I think, our audience have gained so much, I think from your perspective and seeing things a little bit different. And I think what you provide, I'm sure, to your clients and to people around is incredibly valuable, where they can take this information and have that guidance and process where you're taking them probably along with that whole process. Sometimes we can't take that step alone. We need some support. We need some help from somebody who can get us going. And once we're on the right track and flowing, we can probably carry it on, and then we'll be able to be on the right path. But essentially, support can be great. And we can, again, talk about this all day, but we have a limited amount of time.
Yes.
But I do want to ask, one last thing that I can ask you. If you can leave us today with any final thoughts on how someone can improve their life based on these days in 2022, where life is going, what would be something, a suggestion that you would share with us that the audience can take with them and take it on their journey?
Final thoughts. This is what I would say. Only take advice from people that you think you can trade places with in that area of life.
Interesting.
So you see, growing up, before I stepped into this industry, I was asking my friends, hey, do you think I should do finance? They've never done finance. Why am I taking advice from the wrong people, right? I used to take advice from my friends who are single about, hey, should I go out with this person? They'd be like, no, this is what you need to do. What you need to do. This is what you need to do, right? Yeah. But then realize after having some mentors and after having resources, doing my own research, trial and error, that hey, you know what? I only want to take advice from people that I can actually trade places with in that area of life.
Nice. Yeah.
They might have a lot of money, but they might not have a good relationship, right? I can take advice from them on money, but on relationship, I'm going to find someone who has a good relationship. So the reason why I'm saying that is because from information age, we're transitioning into like a lot of information, right? Yep.
A lot of information.
A lot of information. There's this guy, there's that guy, there's this guy, YouTube, podcast, this and that, right? Yep. So if there's one thing that I will leave this show with is just like, hey, you know what? Only only take advice from people that you think you can trade places with in that area of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great advice, because it is true. It is exactly that. So Ranvir, tell us, where can people get a hold of you if they want they have some questions, they want to reach out to you, maybe find ways that you can support them and help them. How can they reach out to you? What is your connections?
Yeah, 100%. So basically, we are doing educational sessions at no charge, no commitment. The only thing we say is come attend. If you find value from it, refer us one person, and that's about it. So if you want to attend, if people want to attend educational sessions at no expense, related to finance, personal finance, and so on, they can reach me on my Instagram or my phone number. Instagram is RANVIRNAGRA_. Phone number, I guess you're going to put it on the screen, so
absolutely.
That should be fine.
Perfect. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Ranvir, for coming in, and thank you for taking the time to sitting down with us and sharing your knowledge, experience, and your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here. I loved it, and I look forward to more podcasts coming from the brand, and I'm actually a follower as well, so I listen to them.